Hello, 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 and we're doing a review of Planet Zoo, so give our thoughts and such. First, we're going to start with our thoughts on the gameplay. I gotta be honest, the kind of feedback loop is really basic. It's just get animals, and then the rest is just to pad it out, like the micromanagey. Gotta clean this enclosure, gotta do stuff like that. It's just really micromanagey at points when you're trying to build, and then you have everything else going to shit while you're trying to build this enclosure. And you're like, what the hell's going on?
Feel like maybe we should give first impressions first and then work on specifics after.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Well, what's
How
your
you
first
felt when you
impression?
first started playing. You go first, DD. You're first in alphabetical order.
Yep.
Yep. I'm also mostly here because of my experience working on franchise, which is basically being 90% of the time on Planet Zoo for me.
Indeed. I've watched a lot of hours of people playing,
Mm. I
just
mainly
watching
just
y'all
gone
play
through.
this stuff.
I
I
mainly
just
just gone through Korea.
like, I haven't personally put as many hours into it just because I've had been doing school and stuff.
Hmm.
And whenever I do play games, it just hasn't been Planet. I haven't wanted to play Planet Zoo just because of certain things that I'm going to get into eventually.
Hmm.
Like I like watching what people can make,
Oh, definitely.
but I don't feel like putting in the hours to make a few things.
One thing
Yeah, it's understandable.
yeah. One thing I also feel is especially with a lot of games when they come out, tend to just be really buggy, and there needs to be patches before you can really get into it because the game can be almost unplayable. Like a perfect example was
Yeah.
I was doing this is actually the mission I was doing now. I tried to record it like three different times when I was getting this money bug that basically meant I was like $300 million in debt and I could not recover from it. And it was just like a feedback loop that I couldn't get from. So basically, it made the level unplayable for me. I think they fixed it in one of the more recent patches, but that rendered that mission unplayable for me. So it was kind of more like fighting against these game breaking bugs. But I like the base game is really fun with the creativity, and the animals are immaculate and all that stuff. We'll get more into that, but that first impression, it's kind of like a beautiful mess. It's a diamond in the rough. That's what I got from it.
Which can be a good thing, but
Hmm. It just sucks because
I mean, go on.
I just mean it it sucks because obviously most of the views and attention that a game gets is from its launch. So if you start with a pretty buggy launch, that kind of can put a bad taste in people's mouths.
It very much can.
Mm.
And my whole thing with that is they had a chance to get feedback on bugs
Mm.
and fix bugs if they had to push it back a while to fix the bugs that they got during the beta.
Mm.
Hmm.
Like that's your time to take people's feedback, see what's working, see what's not, see what's broken, and adjust it.
Mm.
I'd rather a game come out a little bit later and working than a game come out sooner and be a mess.
I think they just kind of bit off a little bit more than they could chew because they already
I don't
set
know
a
about
release
that.
date. I mean, with the release date, because it was only a month away, pretty much. Like the
Yeah, but they still could have pushed it back. I would. I mean, would you have minded waiting another month or a month and a
Oh,
half?
I definitely wouldn't have minded.
Nope.
No.
I'd rather wait for a better product.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I just mean that with what we got and the time between the beta and the full release was only a month. So I don't
Hmm.
think that was really enough time to really go through, especially with how complicated this game is, with all the individual pieces and the terrain calculations and all the animal herding and all the really complex systems in this game. I feel like that might not have been enough time to really iron out the kinks and performance as well. Because like I remember, I usually noticed in like this 1.3 patch that recently came out, that performance has just gone up like twice fold. Like I was doing a zoo when I already got like 10 frames when I was zooming in like the middle of it, and it wasn't even that big of a zoo. And then I went back to pretty much the same zoo and I got about 30 frames, and I was like pretty happy with that. So like just sticking it out for like a little bit before you get into it is probably a really good idea.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And one thing about like the gameplay is that like really your creativity is endless. Like whatever
I
what
don't
it
know about endless.
pretty much like there are things that definitely could be added that would add more creativity, but it's really only limited by your imagination. Like if you want to make something, you could pretty much make it. If you want to make
But
a giant temple
but
full of a giant temple zoo exhibit, you could do that if you want to.
you could.
Hmm.
But that leads into another thing. The entire time you're going to be making that, you're going to be fighting against the controls
Definitely.
because they are not very good,
Yeah, I think they're like
in my opinion.
definitely. They definitely is a great learning curve to them, and sometimes it just cannot be that intuitive.
Yeah,
Like you just
like
like pick them
you
up.
can figure out what to do
Mm.
and what works and what doesn't work. But wouldn't you rather a game's controls just be okay? Here, this is how you do it. There's no jank. There's no problems. Just have at it.
Mm.
Do what you want to. Make what you want to, and it be flawless. I'm not flawless, but the flawless is a hard is subject to opinion.
Mm.
Um, it being just a lot more user friendly
Mm.
because some of the modular building it can be a little bit wonky,
Definitely.
and that the pathing system is, in my opinion, a massive downgrade from Jurassic World Evolution. I mean, yeah, you can adjust the length and adjust the width, like that's cool,
Mm.
but just the way you place it is a bit of a downgrade.
It's just very clunky.
It is. It's very clunky, and
Yeah.
it didn't have to be clunky. That's the
Mm.
thing.
And also
The
the
fence system, it's also a little bit of a downgrade, but I mean, at least it's not as bad as the past system. The past system is just really annoying to work with.
mm. At least the fence system is like definitely really customizable. Like if you want to take a section and move it, you can just do that.
Drag it
Yeah,
around. That's actually great.
Yeah,
That way you don't need to erase that. You can just like modify it enough.
you could just like
exactly.
yeah,
That's appreciative. The null fences, those are very appreciative. I mean,
yeah,
I'm
The
very
null
appreciative of those.
the null fence is definitely the best type of fence in the game, ironically.
yeah.
Yeah, you can just
Just so you can
make
make your own
whatever
fence.
kind of fences you can because honestly, in my
Yeah.
opinion, the fencing options in the game are like most of the building options. Like the pre-made buildings are very limited. They expect you to make everything
Hmm.
yourself.
hmm
That's where the blueprints come in because they're like,
The
oh,
blueprints aren't even that good,
yeah. I
in
mean,
my
like the
opinion.
blueprints, like the user-made ones, which is kind of weird for
I
the game
mean,
to rely on.
I mean, it's not really relying on that. Like, if you want to be lazy and do it and download something that somebody else made, you can. But
Hmm.
I'd rather make something myself. It makes
Definitely.
me feel a little bit better.
Plus, it's
Definitely.
fun. It's cool to like look back at what you've made.
It can be, but also it can be a pain.
Hmm. I just found like once you really get used to the controls, even though you're fighting against them, that's when it starts to fall into place. And you can easily start making, once you've figured out all the little tips and tricks and all that, just by watching YouTubers or just figuring it out by yourself, you can really start to make really wonderful looking enclosures. The one thing I'd like to add is the staff. The bloody staff. having to tell them to go click on this enclosure because it's running down. The barrier's coming down, like right here. Barrier's coming down. The cleanliness is just sometimes that when you have more than 4 or 5 enclosures can be really annoying to sort out
Hmm.
because you're like trying to build something and they're like, nah, you got this to sort out. I feel like the staff does need to be a little bit more. The staff AI needs to be a little bit more predictive. So if they see enclosures barriers strength is going down, they can be like, okay, I need to go and do that, and they can go fix it for you. You don't need to
I
tell
mean,
them.
or you could, when it comes to the barriers, you can always just set the schedule, the maintenance scheduling of the, like, say it's by default it's set to every year, once a year.
Mm,
You can just set it to every 3 months,
mm.
which seems to work wonders for that, in my opinion. It's honestly when it comes to feeding the animals that it kind of
Yeah,
gets me.
that's also yeah. Especially like you have an animal that's healthy, and it's like it's hungry, and the only reason it's not being fed because the keeper's just messing around.
And it really blows. I really don't understand why they made it so that the keepers prioritize the enrichment feeders
I feel like
over the normal feeders, because especially if you have an exhibit with a lot of animals, the enrichment feeders don't really hold nearly as much as the normal feeders. So if
mm,
you have a large herd of Thompson's gazelle, let's say,
mm,
that they're going to be at risk of starving.
mm. I just that's just weird to me. Some of these like odd design choices. I feel like that's more like a bug that they've just decided to lean into because I don't know. But I think that yeah, they should really prioritize like the actual troughs
Exactly.
and food bowls rather than these
Like a
enrichment items.
food barrel or a ball with food in it, because
Mm,
yeah, they do give them food, but not nearly enough. Like, I had an exhibit with 4 bongos,
mm-hmm,
and they were getting at risk. They were at risk of starving because, lo and behold, my keepers were prioritizing the enrichment items.
Hmm.
I had the same issue
Yeah,
in
it's
even
rather
in
annoying.
Sandbox. Like even in Sandbox, it's an issue.
Not anymore, because they added the
Yeah,
options to disable needs,
yeah.
but still, I'd rather not have to turn that on.
Mm,
Like, even if I am just fucking around on Sandbox, I'd rather have the entire experience. Beside, I mean, it's not really the entire experience, because honestly, the main appeal, one of the main appeals besides being able to build everything by hand,
mm,
is the animal market on franchise mode.
mm.
That's such a cool idea to me.
It definitely
Being able to
is.
like breed animals of different stats and trade them online. I love that idea.
Mm,
And make I just personally wish that it was based all on like the actual currency, like the that you make from your zoo, instead of
mm. Conservation
conservation
credit.
points. Like, I don't really. I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it's just all right. It's
Yeah,
kind of dumb.
the conservation credits just seemed like another way to artificially slow down your progress.
It is. It
Because
definitely
cause
is,
all
because if you,
cause all good animals are
uh,
locked behind the conservation credits.
yeah, like, no one's gonna sell you an Indian rhino for $2,000.
Hmm.
They're gonna be selling you like 5,000 conservation credits, which is, and that
And
also
even
leads to go on.
and even animals that you can regularly just buy with cash listings are fucking pain. Are just really painful to get. Like yesterday, I was struggling just to get a male African buffalo.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
first of all, male African buffaloes in cash listings are really rare, and then the only ones available in conservation credits, the cheapest one was 4K, and it was like really bad stats. And I'm like, I'm not. Like, what's even the point? Like, it's just really difficult for the type of animals to find it.
It's just people hoarding the best animals for themselves, not really wanting to actually trade much. I
Yeah,
think.
Yeah.
which is another thing. People are going to be cheap bastards.
Mm,
Pardon my language.
I feel like that's just part of being online. That's just being a
Yeah,
multiplayer.
that is
You
a
can't
part of
help it.
that, and there is the Frontier Zoo thing where you can buy them. Just like they'll generate an animal and put it onto the marketplace for a reasonable price, but most people just watch that and have that on lock. Like as
Mm,
soon as they see it, they got it. You have to be looking for them.
mm. It's really hard to find any specific animals you want. I feel like that
It
comes
can
into
be.
the UI, but we'll get into that with more of the aesthetics. But yeah, I think the with summing up that, I think it's just really just a lot of really odd design choices and clunky controls. But you can,
Yeah.
once you understand them and use and get used to them, you can really start making things that are beautiful and amazing.
You can, but then
It's
there's
it's rather if you want to.
it's, yeah, it's all up to you.
Mm, that's kind
Like
of
you
it.
can go in and make something extremely basic looking, like one of those like and that could be looked at as a good thing because you can make everything from the shitty little roadside zoo out there in the middle of the boonies to something looking like a world class 5-star zoo
Mm,
out there
Or
in,
some
in
or something more of a theme looking so kind of like Magic, like Animal Kingdom.
yeah, you can make something like that. You can make something more akin if you have the time and patience, you could honestly make something akin to Jurassic Park
you really could.
if you have the time and
It's
patience.
all just up to you. It just gives you the tools, and you can have at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though the tools are a bit clunky at times, and some things, especially pathing, is a real pain. Like the snapping is just
Yeah.
horrible. But ultimately, it's a it's a mess, but it really is a beautiful mess. That's the best way I can say
It,
it.
it it is. It is. It's a very pretty game.
Mm,
It's not it's a pretty game. It's not shallow, so it's not like certain like other games say like I know it's a different genre, but like Star Wars Battlefront from EA, the first one.
mm.
Like that is it is the prettiest piece of crap game that I've ever played. Like it's beautiful, but it was just not fun.
It's
Hmm.
got no personality to it.
Then there's other games like No Man's Sky at launch. It was as wide as an ocean but as deep as a puddle.
Mm,
There was so much stuff in the game, but there was nothing to do. There's
mm,
other games like um Sea of Thieves is something similar game in my opinion.
mm,
But this game it's beautiful, but it has an ugly personality.
mm.
Yep.
But it's got a personality nonetheless.
Yeah, at least it has a personality.
Mm. Well, I think that does really good sum up the gameplay. I think now we can move on to aesthetics.
Yeah,
One thing
the
about
game.
the
Okay, go on.
one thing
You're
I
the
could
host.
think about is like the UI. Like it's nice looking, but it's extremely clunky. Like
It's
It's
very cluttered.
it's
yeah,
very messy. Yeah, it's
mm.
cluttered overall.
Like
It has too much going on, and it can be very confusing at times to find certain things.
why do I have
Yeah,
to scroll through 9 different menus just to look for something?
Hmm.
yeah,
I feel like that's just kind of an issue just because there's so much stuff. It really just needs to be streamlined a lot more.
Yep.
definitely,
I don't.
definitely.
I do like the addition of filters. For example, when looking
Yeah.
through different themes or different, especially for the vegetation, it's really useful.
Mm.
Uh, then getting to filters, but then you come to one of my little nitpicks is the fact that if you look up rocks and you have a continent selected, nothing
Mm.
will show up. You have to go into the
Yes,
filter
it's
and
annoying.
deselect the continent.
Mm.
That it's just like, come on, man. I'm just trying to make my African savanna exhibit. I want savanna rocks. You already know this. Why are you doing this? Why are you making me go in and deselect this? And then when I go back to plants, when I place another plant, I'm gonna have to go in and select it again. It's
Mm.
like, come on,
It's just clunky.
very. But it's not something you can just kind of shrug off. It's still an issue.
Mm.
Like they should have just added the labels of all the continents to the rocks, and that's it. Just like some
Exactly.
plants.
Mm.
Exactly.
Well, the thing is,
Just
it's kind of hard to like label a continent to a rock because it's more of a biome.
not really. Well, the thing is, just label it as all the continents. It's just so it'll go off of the biome instead.
Mm.
So say you have your filter for African savanna,
Mhm.
right? So you'll go into your rocks. If you just had African, it would still just show all of the rocks. But if you had savanna, like you do in this scenario, it would just show savanna rocks.
Mm. That could work. And there's also now one thing I would like to mention is the music. Now I think
Oh, the music in this game is great.
oh, I feel like
It is good.
I feel like the I've actually just recently found it on Spotify and I've been listening to it even just out when I'm just chilling and doing other stuff. It's just really relaxing and really helps bring the atmosphere of the game and like the personality.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And like even when you're going through the missions in campaign, like each one has like if you have a different map, like one in America, it'll sound like American. It'll have like a banjo, and then like you go to Asia, it'll have like the whistle. I'm not sure what you call it, but like it helps theme the area and the game, and just makes it. It's got like a Planet Zoo, Planet Coaster, like vibe, but it's more modified to.
A lot of the songs have little nods to the soundtrack of Planet Coaster. I can tell that,
Mm,
Hmm.
which is nice. It's nice. I
it's just a
appreciate that.
happy vibe, happy.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice they did that. That way, it keeps a consistency within the two worlds.
Mm.
Because since it's a Planet franchise, otherwise it looked weird.
What if they made it all dark and gritty?
Hmm.
But it's actually one of the few soundtracks of a game that I would listen to outside of the game, just because it's so relaxing and chill.
Yeah, it really immerses you in the game,
Mm,
which is something I really appreciate from the track.
mm. I heard a from Doctor. What's up? What's your opinion on that then? I just heard the
No, it's just like it's not that I wouldn't listen to this track when I'm doing something else because I definitely would. I'd listen to. It sounds like something I'd listen to while doing some drawing
Yeah,
Or
definitely.
homework.
or homework. Either one, something that I got to focus on. But
Mm.
I like to listen. I like to listen to I've been listening to the Doom soundtrack a lot recently on
Oh
Spotify.
no.
It's good shit.
No, I think
What was that?
I didn't even know what that was. Just a no, 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 no.
I thought you
Yeah,
were
that
burping or something.
No, I wouldn't
yeah,
do
that
that
was
on like
interesting.
I wouldn't do that on a video. That's weird. Unless I had to, of course. But no, like
Oh.
one thing I really like, and this is probably like if they got this wrong, the game would have fell apart. Is the animals like
Hmm.
they just so detailed and interesting. Like you have one thing that I would really appreciate it was like the bachelor and female herd like dynamics. Like that was like another
Oh
really
yeah,
cool
I
thing.
agree.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. And like and them able to correct to terrain was really cool. Like they can calculate what terrain they can move over, so that helps like when you want to make this really weird enclosure, you got to make sure they can actually walk around it. and the
Hmm.
and the climbing, that was like, I remember hearing about the climbing when it was announced. I was like, no game has ever done that before with the making your own climbing structures for your animals, which is with the placement system pretty hard to really. It takes a lot of playing around and trying to figure out to see if your animals can actually move and walk over it. But it turns out that you can make something really, really nice, of course, once you get over the controls. But one thing also is that if it's taller than the fence or just for some random reason, the animals when they climb on it, they'll just go in a box and then come back out right at your habitat gate.
Because they're considered out of the exhibit.
Yeah, which is kind of a dumb design thing. Like, it kind of like just forces you to make your really high fences just so they don't get boxed up all the time when clearly they couldn't get out.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like that's just a really odd design thing. Well, I'm not sure if it's a bug.
I think it's more of a design thing rather than a bug, honestly.
Mm.
It's not a bug; it's a feature.
Hmm.
Like, they turned into the enrichment now. That's a feature. Even though everyone's like, please let us actually use the feeders.
Yeah, I agree. It's just really annoying that. So what's even the purpose of the feedings if they're not gonna use that much anyways? If you know what I'm saying,
Mm.
it's just really weird.
At least the animals look and behave good. Like, the fur shader that they have is really gives a really nice texture to them. And like the
Oh yeah, no,
animals,
the animals are amazing.
and the scales as well. The animals with scales. That's just the textures. Like the
Hmm.
tortoise. Like that tortoise. The tortoises are just wow. And the crocodiles. It's just immaculate. The one thing I
Yeah, no,
do.
the animals are just stunning in the game.
Mm, the one thing I think is weird with some of the animals is like since they kind of all use the same fur texture or fur shader, it's weird when the animals have like different textures. Like for example, like the lion. I think the lion's a really good example because like if you've seen a lion's mane, it's got very long flowy hair, but in the game it has like this weird short like mass, just like a cotton ball around its face, and it looks a
Hmm.
little bit odd. Same with the black wildebeest when it's got long flowy hair. Tail when it's on its tail, it just looks like a cone of white fluff. I feel like they could
Yeah, I
have.
agree.
I feel like they could have used either a couple different shaders for different fur textures or something like that. But ultimately, that's pretty minor. The one thing I've also noticed is the animations. Each like species has like, its own different little animations. Like with the elephants, like when there's dirt or sand or snow in their enclosures, they'll throw it up on their backs. Or the red pandas, they'll stand up. And I think that really adds a lot to like the individuality of each creature.
Agreed.
Hmm. I just hope there's like more of that in the future because like some just don't really have any. Like there was like some like the in the trailers the peacock fanning out its tail feathers, but I've never really seen that in game. I feel like they might have either going to keep that or it was buggy or whatever when they just add it in. Because I've noticed Frontier does have a habit of like adding things in trailers just later as the game, like with Jurassic World Evolution, the headbutting animations for the Pachycephalosaurus. They just didn't add that until like I think about a year in, even though it was in like the reveal trailer, which is a little odd. But I could understand if it was kind of buggy or something.
Yeah. But other than that, like overall, the animals are just great. The behavior is pretty good, pretty accurate
Mm. There are
to
some
what they
like
do in real life.
there's some like very minor things like the gharial high walking, but that's just because they share the same rig with the crocodile. Or like
Yeah.
one thing with the wolves, there's a big problem with the wolves that they won't actually form packs. Like if you have more than two wolves in an enclosure, they'll kill each other.
No, that was fixed, by the way.
Well, that's good that they fixed it. That just shows that Frontier is really.
Yeah.
Frontier does have a really good track record of keeping content up with the game. Like that's basically their games are just DLC mills. Let's be honest,
Yep.
which is good. That just means more content, especially for a game that's just so creative. You could just keep adding more and more and more, and it just makes the game even better.
Hmm.
Now, well, I think that's pretty much aesthetics done, and I think that
Yep.
also covered accuracy too, because like the accuracy, we just said it's pretty good general to all animals. It's just minor bug fixes and such. So I think now we're just on thoughts and opinions. So if you have anything you wanna think that they should add or something they should fix or change, now would be the time to speak up.
Ah,
I think like really, other than like a few cool little things that like well it'd be cool if they did this or that. I think that the base game, other than the clunky controls and that is pretty good. Like I wouldn't change much about it. I would just make the controls less clunky and the UI less clunky. Like the base.
I agree. Just the UI, just by making those small improvements, it would just be much better because mechanically the rest of the game is pretty good.
Mm, it's just really a lot of the quality of life things that would really need improving.
Hmm. I agree.
What about you, Doc?
what? I was just watching this video of an emu.
I was just asking,
Hmm.
what would you have any thoughts and opinions on the game? Just whatever,
On aesthetics.
anything. This is the
Overall,
Um, uh, more themes, more animals.
that'll of course come
Fix.
with DLC.
Yeah, of course it's gonna happen. I know that. Oh, fix the controls, but most of those things like the pathing, that's not gonna get fixed because in that's
So embedded.
base level stuff.
Mm,
That's so embedded in everything that that's not gonna change. If they did, they'd pretty much be remaking the entire game.
mm.
So there's nothing you can really do about that.
I just personally feel like, yeah, like the base mechanics and such are really solid. It just needs a lot more quality of life improvements just to make the game play and run better, like be better optimized. Just maybe got rid of all these some of the snap stuff and some game breaking bugs as well, which obviously will be fixed. Just things like that. Also, one thing, the game speed. The game speed is way too fast. I think that needs to be
I
slowed down.
agree.
Yeah. Like I
Hmm.
can understand with like some of the animals that live longer, like elephants. Like if they speed it, if they slow it down too much, it would be forever to breed an elephant. But with some of the exhibit animals, they just pump out like nothing.
Hmm.
It just really needs to be like maybe make it one like half the speed. I would say so. Like I think that would probably be the best middle ground. Because they advertise the game as saying you get to care about your animals, and like you do get to care about them. It's just that they die so quickly, you don't really get to enjoy them, and they
I
breed
don't know
so
about that.
fast.
Some things I wish they would die a little bit quicker. But tortoises.
It's tortoises; they live forever.
And another thing, this is a nitpick. It's very much a nitpick, but baby tortoises don't move as nearly as slow as they do in the game, and I've had them nearly die on me a few times just because they couldn't reach the food.
Yeah.
And baby tortoises are pretty fast if you look at them.
They're pretty speedy boys, yeah.
For real, they're like the speed of the adults, which are huge. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
in the game. So that's why. And even the adults in real life, they can get pretty fast if they want food.
That's like one of the thing
And
with the
like I said, that's
tortoises.
nitpicky.
That is pretty nitpicky. But like if you just make the enclosure small enough, you can easily compensate. Like if you don't make a huge enclosure for them, it's
I
more.
mean, that's very limiting.
Yeah. Or just play it in
I don't
sandbox
know, it
mode.
depends. There's just some animals that are like, there's some animals in my opinion that having a really large enclosure doesn't really look as
Benefit them.
good.
Red pandas are a good example. Like if you create like a huge paddock for them, it's just kind of like wasted space. But you could use it for like a big African savanna enclosure with elephants and tigers and shit.
Yeah, herding animals and stuff like that.
Mm. The one thing I think would be really cool for like a mechanic would be like something similar to like Call of the Wild with the Truex. So you could like really add some more individuality to some of like the animal's horns and tusks and stuff. I think that could be quite cool. Like some. Obviously, this is like just a would it be cool? So that you could have like big tusk elephants and animals with like weird deformed horns, which could like affect their rating. And plus, you could like tell at a glance instead of going through dozens of menus to like see this is this animal. That gives them a distinguishing feature. I feel like that could be pretty cool.
Agreed.
But nah, I think the final verdict is just it's a beautiful mess. That's probably like the
I
tagline.
I kind of agree with that. What about you, Doc?
Uh, yes.
I think that's just the best way to say it. That's like the quickest and best way. So I think that finishes us up. So
Yep.
oh, I think you guys better like and subscribe and goodbye.
No.
Oh,
No.
Oof.
Not going
oof.
to like and subscribe.
Damn, how could you do that? I just made this for you. This is so sad. There's no
It
love.
really is sad.
Okay, I'm gonna put that in again. Like and subscribe. Bye bye.